You know security is hard, so let's assume we're probably gonna get pwned by noon. But if we all start to get the basics right, we might not fully get pwned until tonight.
Well, welcome everybody to a series called Do It Yourself $500 Pentest Lab. I've been really excited about this for a long time because it's something that I've blogged and podcasted about a lot. And whenever I'm at conferences and things, and people are like, "Hey, what's the best cert to get, or what's the best training to go after?" There are good options certainly, but I try to point people towards getting your own. Invest a little bit of money, get your own Pentest Lab, and have a playground, have a sandbox that's not your corporate network, right? To start playing with some of these tools and getting familiar with the technologies. So today is part one. I'll introduce my friends that are on the webinar as well. But we're going to dig in a little bit into the hardware and software options to sort of give you a menu, give you some options of what kind of technology you want to choose, and put together a little bit of a grocery list to assemble and think about making your own lab. So we're just going to try to get right to the meat of the matter. I know a lot of you are attending this over lunch hour, so we want to be respectful of the time and give you some good meat to chew on. We'll do some quick introductions. And again, I'm going to go through a couple of hardware labs I've put together in the last couple of years that are really, I think, nice and feature rich and right about $500, maybe a little less, a little more. And then we'll kind of, we'll give Dan and Paul, who I'll introduce shortly here, a chance to add some additional options for you to consider. And then we'll kind of close out this part one, looking at different software options you can put on that Pentest Lab to then, that'll sort of tease us, sort of lead us into part two, where we'll actually start spinning up some VMs and get ready to, set up a mock corporate network to eventually attack in future parts of this series. So, and I had to put a housekeeping slide in here just because this has a Tommy Boy slide, and how could you not put the, housekeeping part in here? But we'll get this recorded. This will be kind of a maiden voyage test for me. I've got Zoom set to do a cloud recording. So whatever that means, hopefully the quality is good. I'll review it afterwards with Paul and Dan. And, as long as it's decent and the video and audio actually work, we will get it up on YouTube if you want to review. Because we're going to be dropping a lot of links, a lot of acronyms, a lot of things. And we want you to be able to have that and work with everything. So just real quick introductions. My name is Brian Johnson with 7 Minute Security, and I focus on a weekly podcast all about security. It's the same name, 7 Minute Security, and do a whole bunch of pen testing and assessments and training and kind of miscellany, really. But my real passion and excitement is in this type of stuff, like putting tools and techniques and technology in the hands of other people so they can, sharpen their IT and security skills. And with that, let me let my pal Paul introduce himself. Hey, Paul.
Hey, guys. Hey, everybody. This is Paul Wilch from Boise, Idaho. I'm the founder of Project 7, a cybersecurity group. We've been running for about a year or so. And I say we, it's only me, but, I have a lot of friends now in it and, people that help me. I heard Brian's podcast a couple years ago, started listening to him, and one of it was this DIY NUC, and that's when I kind of discovered it too. And I have one now, and we're going to order a few more, so it's good.
Fantastic. Thanks for being on the webinar, Paul. And I'd like to also introduce Dan DeCloss from PlexTrack. Hi, Dan.
Hey guys, thanks a bunch for letting me join. Like I said, my name is Dan DeCloss. I'm the president and founder of PlexTrack, a cybersecurity reporting and tracking platform. So if you have issues generating reports and keeping track of all the issues that your security program needs to keep tabs on and fix and show your progress, PlexTrack is is your platform, and also helps write reports a lot faster. But I'm passionate about security. Been in the field for a long time, and I can't think of a better way to learn some of the techniques, when it comes to pen testing and hacking, than just getting in and doing it yourself through all the different means. And so that's why I think this is just a great opportunity to learn just some of the basics and getting started, some of those foundations for getting your lab and techniques started.
Excellent. Thanks again for being on the webinar, Dan. And just to kind of keep things fun and exciting, I've created a few polls I'd like to throw out to the audience at this time. And the first poll is about how you feel about taking polls during webinars. So your choices are: you do it with a happy heart, you tolerate it, it fills you with rage, or you just flipped a table and you want to punch the panelists in the jugular. So we'll keep the poll open for about 10 or 15 more seconds. It looks like we've got a fair amount of tolerance. Good. Nobody is in the rage or table flipping category. So I think I just wanted to know, like, is this a good thing going forward? Do we want to do this? And it looks like roughly we have a tolerance or a happy heart. Okay, fantastic. That's good to know. And I think later in the recording, this actually becomes part of the output. So we can run stats on the audience here and see who's tolerant and who's not. All right, thank you very much for your participation. So let's get into the content here. So I want to talk about some hardware options when you are going to build a do-it-yourself pen test lab. And before we even get into it, because I'm going to focus later on using the VMware ESXi virtualization software to actually install on the bare metal of whatever hardware you choose. And a piece of advice I got too late in the game was before I selected hardware, go to, and you can just Google this, VMware HCL, go to this page, and this has got a nice, breakdown here of, you can select a VMware product, you can find your hardware and kind of make sure it's compatible before you buy anything. But what I've also found, if you find, let's say, you go online, you're looking at some little Intel NUC or some kit on Amazon. If you take that hardware model and Google virtual lab and the name of the piece of hardware, what I've found is that people will put blog posts up saying, hey, you know what, this piece of hardware on the HCL was listed as not compatible, but it's working totally fine with ESX7.1 or whatever it may be. So just kind of a disclaimer, a small word of warning as you go shopping. So let me show you. This is the kit that the first one I ever put together in 2017, and I will. Again, we'll make this available. I've got all the links to each individual component in the slides here. But this was an Intel NUC i3 kit for about $337 on Amazon. And I put in 16 gigs of memory. It'll take up to 32, which I eventually did max it out at. And then I threw a $500 gigabyte internal SSD card for a little over $100. So grand total, you're looking at around $566. Now, what I was originally scared off at the idea of putting these things together, because I'm not one of those get the soldering iron, put the cooling gel and all that. I've never built like one of those awesome rigs or anything. So I was scared. I was steering clear of this. But let me just assure you, from kind of a hardware dum-dum standpoint, like me, this is pretty easy to put together. So you buy here's the base unit right here, the base NUC. There's 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. You just lift the top off. You slide in the drive into the cabling right here in this little slot. You snap in the memory on the little slot here. Put the screws back on, and you're good to go. So please don't let that deter you from, you know, scoring a great deal on like a do-it-yourself NUC, thinking you're gonna have to spend, you know, hours soldering things or anything like that. It's very much just snap together, plug and play, and you're off and running. And just to show you a little snapshot of kind of what that looks like today, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11 machines running in this. And in future parts of the webinar, I'll do a little deeper dive and kind of show you what this all is. But I've got a domain controller. I've got 2 or 3 Windows VMs here connected to it. Got a Kali box to attack all that stuff, as well as a Pi-hole DNS server and some other miscellany. Now, granted, I'm not doing, you know, I'm probably using 1 to 2 machines at a time. So, I mean, if you were doing really heavy, you know, if you were running some sort of virtual like logging collection aggregator or something like that, that's going to put a lot more strain on a little box like this. But when you're just doing, you know, spinning up a DC and attacking it with Kali and that kind of stuff, this, from what I've seen, I mean, performance-wise and hard drive-wise is more than adequate. So. And it's, you know, it's going on 2 years old and still is just a champ. It's kind of my primary pen test box. And then let me show you too, the one that I just picked up. This is more for my customer engagements. This is one I just picked up a couple months ago. And this is another Intel NUC kit, but everything was pre-snapped in and ready to go. So it cost me $363. This is a dual core i3. With 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigabyte hard drive, and then it's got Windows a Windows 10 license with it, which is nice because I wanted that for a different purpose. But you can just simply, and we'll show you how to do that. You can simply kind of nuke what's there and lay VMware ESXi on top of it, and have that be your, you know, your software base for the other VMs. I did stick in an extra stick of 8 gigabytes of memory, so it's got 16. I'm sure at some point I'll max it out to the 32, but this would be a very capable starter lab as well. And look here, you're under the $500 sweet spot, so that's not too bad. And then I put as a footnote, you know, you could, and at some point I'm sure I'll do this too. I'll beef up the disk space because, you know, 128 gigs, that's not going to get you a ton of VMs, but certainly a handful to start practicing on. And here's what this looks like right now. So I just have, I guess just a side note on this. So this is my, my box that I drop off at customer sites. And maybe sometime I can do a deeper dive and show you that. But I've got this NUC running Windows 10, or this VM running Windows 10, and then the Splashtop remote desktop software that Paul, you turned me on to, that I really like. So I've got ESXi set to boot this thing as soon as the NUC is booted. So in most cases, I don't need to bring like a monitor and a keyboard or anything. I just say, hey, plug me in somewhere on the network where, you know, it can get out to the internet. I fire up the NUC. I watch on my Splashtop console for the VM to go live. I remote into it, and then I boot this Kali VM, and away we go. I'm set to remote pen test from the comfort of my home. So that has been just such a blessing for like really long Nessus scans or week-long pen tests to just say like, hey, can I ship this thing to you ahead of time, or can I drive it over there and just leave it there for the week? And you know, with the exception of a few customers who kind of say, no, you know, I want to see your butt in a seat tapping on the keyboards. Most clients have been fine, you know, with that. So that's a pretty cool option as well. But again, I'm eating up most of the disk space, most of the memory. So if I'm going to do much more than 3 VMs, I'm going to probably need to upgrade the hardware a bit. Let's see. I think that's kind of what I wanted to show. Now, wait, Paul, just to keep things going, keep the audience lively, keep them engaged. Let me just throw one more poll at them. I'm going to throw out this poll that asks, I'm interested in building a DIY pen test lab because ... Either I should probably stop pen testing my corporate network. They're high in fiber. I already have one and I want another. It's what all the cool kids are doing these days. Or I joined the webinar by accident.
Nice.
So we'll kind of see. A few people, I left this as multiple choice because I figured there might be there might be multiple reasons. Okay, they are high in fiber. Looks like most people want to join the cool kids. They've already got a pen test lab, and they're admitting that they should probably stop pen testing the corporate network. I agree, and I'll say I learned that. Well, this guy I know, he learned that the hard way when he ran a tool called Cain and Abel on his corporate network, and then suddenly nobody could get to the internet. So let me just tell you guys, I feel bad for that guy. He was
Then that guy formed his own company called PlexTrack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's why I remember that story. You're the
He's
PlexTrack
going to be
guy.
the founder and president.
True confessions.
Yeah. That's obviously a joke, everyone. Right? But yeah.
Well, Paul, do you want to take us through some of the things in your rolling around in your brain about pen testing and Pentest Lab?
For one thing, when I first heard your podcast, I'm like, 16 gigs, I want to get 32, and then I just started bumping up all the hardware, and then it got out of my price range, and it was well over $500. And this is what 2-3 years ago. Whenever you first put this out,
Yeah.
So what happened is back then is I never got it because I'm like, well, I got to save up for it. So, and I really think 16 gigs is enough. When you first start out, it's you fire up your Vuln hubs or whatever you download. Like one that I like to use, it's called Quara, and it's on Vuln hub, and it's really small. It's only 500 megs of memory, and I never usually bump up the RAM on the VMs because I want it kind of realistic, right? I don't want to, if I'm hammering away at it or brute forcing or whatever kind of attack you're doing, I want to make sure like, oh, there's a good possibility it just might go offline. So that's one thing is I think really 16 gigs is totally enough to start off with. And then 500 gigs, same thing, and if you need more space, and I sometimes I offload my ISOs or the OVAs onto a hard drive or a portable disk, so nothing's on there. And then I do an alternative. I do a base install of either Ubuntu or Windows 10, and then I install VirtualBox on there, and then in each side, on the host of say the Windows 10 on the NUC, then I install Splashtop, or actually what I started using now, it's also free, is a Real VNC. I mean, they have TeamViewer too, but I just like Real VNC. You can only put 5 PCs on there. But at the time when I was testing this last year, it seemed like VNC was a little bit more responsive. Also, you can only put 5 on there. So, TeamViewer, you might log into several and you have, it's just a mess, right?
Right.
So I have Real VNC on the host and then Real VNC inside of the guests on some of them that I can remote into, just so I can get to it anywhere. If I need to fire up the VM and I forgot to when I was at my, at home or wherever I was at a different location, I can just remote into it and then fire it up. But definitely, I think, like you said, it's nice to have a remote kind of software, Splashtop, or Real VNC, or TeamViewer inside your host that you can get into. But yeah, other than that, I don't have any other changes. I have one here, and they're great. If nobody's ever seen or they don't have one, definitely I think it's worth getting into because you can take it anywhere you want. Another thing I've done, or I haven't done yet, but I installed Nessus on it, right? So I wanted something portable where I can take it wherever I wanted. I have Nessus on it, but then I realized I saw on Nessus's site, I think it's Tenable, that you can also download it as an appliance, an OVA. So I'm going to do that in the next week or two.
Very cool.
And that's all I got for my thoughts on that.
Okay, and was there anything you wanted to share too? Did you say you had any?
Oh, well, yeah, actually I did take it apart. So if you want to, I don't know if you can give me control of my screen or give me the video option here.
Let's see.
I can try that.
Yeah, are you able, do I have to delegate that to you?
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it says host has stopped it. Stop the video.
Oh,
maybe, let me see. Oh, maybe I can share. Let's see. Yes, let me do the video. Well, I have it taken apart, and I was just gonna show that, but let's see if it'll work. And no big deal. You know what I can do is I can just take pictures of it and just send it to you, and we can put it in somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for that. And let's flip over. I know Dan has got some thoughts and some tips and cool stuff to share.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll echo Brian's pain that maybe he experienced as well. So I first set up my first Pentest Lab or virtual lab almost 7 years ago now, and wrote a couple blog posts about just setting it up. He's got those there in the links. But I walked through. I tried to help people avoid the pain as much as possible. Because one, it's just a great experience, kind of building a computer, or having your own dedicated hardware for running your virtual lab. I mean, there's a lot of pros to that in terms of being able to isolate it, being able to make sure that you've got kind of a full view of that machine and everything that's running on it, and getting experience, running virtualized systems. ESXi is a ton of fun just to play around with. So I mean, even if your motivation is not just pen testing, but just kind of setting up a virtual lab, totally worth it. Lots of fun. But yeah, so I mean, when I was building mine, I was just building a desktop. And did not check the hardware compatibility sheet. So
Good times.
I get to the point where, my network adapter doesn't work, and it's not compatible with ESXi. So I had to find another hack, which I guess is a learning experience in itself. So I found a way to like mod the binary and then be able to load ESX so that
Wow, nice.
so that the network card would work.
Yep.
So this blog post, it's a little old, obviously. So it's from 6 years ago, but similar principles, right? Just kind of building the machine out, and I still have that machine actually, and so it's still plugging strong. But it's fun also to just be able to load up ISOs and be able to spin them up quickly, and still have it kind of be in an isolated environment. Which is important, right? So I was just kind of highlight that there's different modes to practice and hone your skills as we kind of talk through the pen testing lab setup. Brian's going to dive into the setting up the Active Directory domain and simulating a client environment, which is awesome. And so that's one area that you'll want to get practice at, and then. I like to do a lot of just random, have some spare time. You can hack away at purposefully vulnerable virtual machines. Yeah, let's say that 5 times fast. But machines that are purposefully built to be exploited, and so they can kind of help hone your skills in an OSCP type fashion, right? So if anyone's interested in taking the Offensive Security Certified Professional exam, you have a lab and are looking to exploit certain services and whatnot. So I posted a link in the chat. Tons of vulnerable virtual machines out there that you can download, and so that's one nice thing. You can pop them right into your ESXi server, spin them up, hack away at them. It's isolated. Even if you accidentally left it running, hopefully your ESXi server is not exposed to anything public that's going to get onto anything sensitive. But so those are some of the tips that I would also present. And then if you don't have the hardware or want to kind of get rolling right away, you can obviously have use VMware locally on your machine, like Paul was saying. And I also use Docker, right? So Docker is another technology out there today that's gaining a lot of popularity and use, simply because it's very easy and portable. So it runs at the host layer. It's not a virtualization technology, so you're not dedicating RAM or hard drive space to a specific, what in the Docker space they call it an image or a container.
Yep.
But so a lot of CTFs, capture the flag exercises, now are being run in Docker because it's easy to spin up, easy to spin down, and you can deploy them anywhere. And so I would recommend kind of diving into Docker a little bit, getting some exposure there. I've helped run the Boise B-Sides capture the flag here for the last 2 years, and we spin all of our machines up and our challenges up in Docker, and then we've posted them on our GitHub page. So that's what Brian is running through now. So that's just an initial resource to go and say like, hey, I can pull down some capture the flag exercises, spin them up in my Docker, test against them, or even have a Docker machine in your ESXi server, right? So
yeah,
lots of options there. But I would just recommend, like, that's another technique that I use to kind of try and keep my skills up. But you know, there's lots of other capture the flag GitHub pages out there that you can download, and then, you know, just be able to hack away at your own heart's content.
Good stuff. And I'll just since we're on the topic, I'll just bring up a couple that I'm not sure what you posted in the chat, but
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this is a great one. So if you just, you know, want to download these, and like you were saying, Dan, I really like the idea of downloading these to your ESX server, because me personally, if I've got a beefy laptop and I'm spinning up, you know, a Kali box plus, let's just say Raven 2, it's like, man, that chews up so many of my resources. And then if, you know, any of them crash, it's like, oh, shoot, you know, I lost the Word doc I had open with a client report. Like, it's just so nice to offload all that into your NUC. And it's there in the current, you know, your attacking box, and the box receiving attacks is just there in a, you know, kind of a pristine state. Or you can, you know, spin up Raven 2, snapshot it, and then, you know, try to blow it up. And if you break it, well, you just revert the snapshot and you're, you know, you're good to go. So that's this is a great resource. And then just on the Docker front, I just have to bring up Juice Shop.
Oh, of course.
Any time we get to talk about vulnerable VMs that run on Docker, because this Juice Shop, if you've not played with it before, is an awesome way to test and hone your skills on web app pen testing specifically. But our pal Bjorn has made it so easy to download this in, you know, many different formats, but with like 1 or 2 Docker commands, you can have that up and running and, you know, be attacking that. And I think we'll, later in this series, because I hope this can grow enough where, you know, we're starting today with just building the lab, but I hope we get all the way down the line, you know, if people are interested and hang with us, to where we are doing pen testing. And I think Juice Shop would be a great thing to dive into, and, you know, attack some of that OWASP top 10. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and someone posted in the chat. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just about to say exact same thing you were. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, someone posted in the chat. There is Hack the Box EU, which they host their own similar lab, similar to like the OSCP lab, but you know, where you can go in and get some dedicated lab time in their cloud. So they're hosting it all for you, and that's another great resource.
So is this one a free one?
No, I believe you do have to like subscribe.
So
maybe not.
Somebody will probably
correct
it's
free. It looks like
this in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if this has changed. I know when I dove into it, the first thing you had to do was get yourself an invite code, and
yeah.
I don't know if that's still the case. And I actually found that to be frustrating, because I thought that was a pretty decent difficulty challenge. But then inside, once you're in there, you kind of can attack anything you want, and then the difficulty ranges from, you know, more easy to black belt advanced. So I didn't see if that was still the case, but let's see. Oh, there we go. Play for free or go VIP. Yeah. So they do have a little breakdown here. So yeah, really good stuff. Thanks, Dan.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. All right. So let me just talk a little bit, since we've you know, covered hardware, and I'm sure there's millions of hardware combinations out there, right? We just try to focus on give people a little variety, and especially on the NUC side, give you some, you know, pretty easy and portable options. And another thing I should mention just about the NUC, I'm not sure if Paul and Dan, if your hardware options end up, you know, getting loud and fans spinning up and all that kind of stuff once you get a lot of VMs going, but that NUC I really love, because it is just whisper quiet. So it doesn't need to be like tucked away in a soundproof room somewhere. You can just, you know, leave that out on the desk. That's no big deal. Okay, so for software options, there are other choices you can make, like Hyper-V, and you know, Dan or Paul, you mentioned VirtualBox. Most of the series we're going to work on here is going to talk about VMware ESXi as the bare metal software that you install. But the steps at a high level are this, which is, I've got the link here to go get yourself a free copy of ESXi. So that's just a ISO that you'll download. Create that ISO, and I just linked to a site that I thought did a good job with visual aids on how to get that done. And then in your NUC or whatever your device is, you just got to make sure virtualization is turned on. Otherwise, your ESXi install and your VMs, as you try to fire them up, are going to barf like, they're going to throw icky messages that make you think something is seriously broken when really it's probably just a box you have to tick in the BIOS. So just to look at that, I just wanted to throw that ESXi install in a bit more step-by-step. On the PC side, again, many ways you can do this. I personally just like this free little utility called Rufus. So you download that, you fire it up, you feed it your ESXi ISO, you say go, it makes it a bootable USB drive, you stick it in your NUC or whatever your hardware is, and you follow the prompts to install ESXi. And on the Mac side, which is how I made my ESXi installer, that for some reason, and it could be a me thing, but it wasn't working very well. And I did some Googling and found that I wasn't alone in that, and that other people were having a problem making the ISO. So I found this little GitHub project, which is really just a series of build scripts to make the ISO on the Mac. So it's just a bit more convoluted. You download that project to a directory. That's what the screenshot is here. And then you just have to kind of identify what is your USB drive, or where are you going to install the ISO. So you just run the make devices command, and it'll list out all your disks. And right here in my example, disk 2 is the one that I've labeled USB to ESXi. So this is my USB drive, 4 gigs here. And then you just have to note the disk number because that's the command that kicks off the ISO build. So I just ran.
Hey, also,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say also, so I don't have a Mac, but you know, obviously a lot of us use Linux a lot. So there's another program or app out there, I guess it's called, now they changed it to Balena.io. It used to be called Etcher.io. And so that one, I think if you're on a Mac, try Etcher.io first. And if you just type in etcher.io, it'll redirect you to Balena. Yeah, there you go. And that will work.
Just making sure, Paul, just making sure you're not trying to send me somewhere.
Yeah, that's it right there. So I don't know, maybe try that one.
Okay.
I just don't know enough about that ESXi ISO that's downloaded. You know, Rufus is good, and that works with Windows ISOs. So, you know, so I use Rufus on like Windows 10 or Windows 7 or whatever else I'm, you know, doing for USB. And Etcher will work on, you know, Linux, Kali, and that kind of stuff. So, but for the Mac people, if you are not comfortable with the command line, maybe try this one out first.
Fantastic. I'll make sure this makes notes. Cool. Etcher. Nice. See, I love doing stuff like this because there's always better tools, better ways.
Well, hopefully, yeah. And then maybe somebody can get back to us in a Slack channel and let us know if that worked.
That'd be great. Cool deal. Okay, so I identified my USB disk was disk 2, so I just type make VMware disk equals 2, comes through here, makes the ISO, ejects it, and now I've got my ISO right on my USB drive and can plug it into my NUC and boot to it. And then here's just a quick screenshot of what that little virtualization setting I was talking about that you need to enable. It will likely look something like this. You boot into your BIOS pressing F2 or whatever key it tells you on the initial boot. And then under a menu, advanced processor configuration, there will be something about Intel virtualization, VT, VX, something like that. You have to just enable that and reboot the box. And then go through the ESXi install, and then you'll be all set. You'll have your foundation built, and you'll be ready to start assembling some VMs. So really not too, I mean, I know we kind of covered a lot. It looks like a lot, but I think you'll find it's relatively smooth, especially if you've got supported hardware, right? So,
oh,
cool. Well,
hey, Brian, so are all the NUCs supported? Do we have, if you order a NUC on Amazon, do you have to worry about it, or are they all supported? Is it by processor or some other hardware type thing, or?
That's a good question. I don't know if they all are. I can say, you know, and I'll get these slides out to everybody. The two that I'm using worked absolutely fine with no tweaking of anything. Just make the ISO, hit the install. But like we were kind of talking about before, I found that, you know, one way to figure it out is to Google the model name you're thinking of buying, plus, you know, test lab or virtualization lab. You're bound to find a blog where somebody says like, hey, it wasn't on the HCL, but it worked dandy, or it totally sucked, stay away, and unless you're, you know, wanting some pain in your life.
Got it. Last question for me, I think, at this very moment. So can you open up ports in your firewall or whatever and get to this remotely? And I mean, obviously, opening up ports is not like highly recommended, but is there a way to access this? You know, is there a way to access this remotely if you do it this way?
Yes, you could. There is a VMware KB on that, on what ports need to be open to allow that. I just personally don't. I do. I VPN into here, and access it that way. But yes, you could get the web interface open, you know, to the outside world. But you'd want to be, you know, real careful. Or if you can, I've seen some people, at least like in corporate networks, they will open those ports, but then they've got an ACL in the firewall that says, you know, only allow Bob, the administrator's public IP at home to, you know, connect to these ports, you know, just to keep the noise of the web away from trying to log in. All right. So that brings us to our questions section. I know maybe you guys have been looking at the chat. Is there, do people have other questions they want to talk about? Otherwise, I did want to put in, just as a kind of a ongoing way to chat with all of us, is there is a 7-minute security Slack channel. You can just click that little link there and, you know, come and talk with, pick Dan's brain, pick Paul's brain, and, you know, share your insights. That's probably the best way to, you know, keep the knowledge funnel moving forward. But did anybody have questions in the chat that we want to talk about? Otherwise, oh, is it here? Oh, Q&A. No open questions. Is there I can't really see from my end. Is there like a separate area people can plunk in?
Well, I see some comments. Do you see the chat group for the attendees?
Okay. Yep.
Who is it? Steve D just posted Zotier VPN does not require opening ports on firewall. So that's I don't know that one, but that'll be interesting to check out.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Oh, this is nice.
Hey, also one last comment, or not, another comment actually. So just for those of you who are still kind of new to VMs and this kind of stuff, what's good about the ESXi route is that it takes very minimal resources versus what I do. The way I do it is I put an operating system on there, Windows or Ubuntu, but that's also going to take up resources. So if you have 16 gigs or if you're at 8 gigs of RAM, then you probably want to do the ESXi route, which may seem a little bit of a pain, but it's not that bad.
Good stuff. Oh, and thank you, Brian. I realize I'm answering all questions with the screen share here. I will say thank you. So as long as people aren't sending super private stuff over question and answer. Oh, here's one that came. Any uses for Raspberry Pi 3B+? Ooh, Paul, you're kind of a Raspberry Pi guy. Any thoughts on this?
Totally. For on this one, yeah, you can install, well, just Raspbian. I saw somebody here, OXDF, he was talking about Raspbian. And so, you know, you can install, what is it, some of the Kali tools, not Kali tools, but what is it, like NNAP on there, NetDiscover. You can install some tools on there. I'm still working around with it, and I just haven't perfected like a great install for installing Kali or Parrot OS and having it up, being able to remote into it with VNC, real VNC at all. But definitely, you know, and also mouse jacking. You know, we talked about that a little bit in the Slack group. But Raspbian or Raspberry Pis are really awesome. So that's, I think, but that's a whole nother topic. I think a whole nother series that we should do later.
Yes. Yep. I want to do one specifically on mouse jacking because I know you've you burnt the midnight oil and went on like a mouse jacking bender one weekend and learned a ton.
It's really awesome stuff that I've never seen online or anything like that. So it's really good stuff. So yeah, that's definitely another whole topic series type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and JF Bethlehem was posting like, Pi's, you can run Docker on the Pi as well. And there's a Kali instance for Docker, and then Lars also said there's a Kali build for Pi. So yeah, lots of opportunity to get your hands on stuff for any kind of smaller hardware that you don't want to spend a lot of money and put in a data center.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah, I really got it. Dan, so Brian, Dan's going to give the next Project 7 meeting, he's going to give a demo or a workshop on Docker. So I can't wait to learn about that. That's all these different technologies like Kubernetes. I have no idea what it is, but I hear people talking about it. But so Docker is same thing. One of those things I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it, and I haven't. I actually tried to install it a couple weeks ago and it's installed successfully, but I can't find the instance somewhere. It was on my NUC somewhere, right? But anyway, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing that you're gonna do, Dan.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm excited to do more of these. I think these are just like a fun way to really just dig right into the meat of these kind of things. Because I have a feeling you're not alone, Paul. I'm certainly on the same page as you, where I hear Kubernetes, Chef, Puppet, all these ways that I'm probably like, I'm missing cool tools. I'm doing things slowly that I could likely be doing a lot more efficiently. And I think we've got unlimited topics to pick from. And it seems like just based on the activity, the kind of the chatter in the chat box, seems like we're not alone in our curiosity and wanting to learn. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so you've got the Slack channel. Please join that. Come on in and hang out with us if you're not already. And speaking of future webinars, so part 2/3, like I talked about before, we're gonna dive in. We're gonna build out. We'll go step by step. We'll build ourselves a mini corporate network. As a matter of fact, let me just. How are we doing for? Oh, we're doing good for time. Let me just flip over. I'll show you. I had to build a. Of course, this is probably not going to work, and I don't want Paul to see my password. But anyway,
you don't want the internet to your password.
Right. Don't want to fire up the old password tools right now. But I built up a domain controller, like I said, a couple of slave client machines, and then a Kali box to attack it all. So we'll go through that together. Next part, we'll if you kind of want to follow along at home, you can download the server ISOs right from Microsoft. You just download. What are we on these days? Server 2016 ISO, and get yourself a evaluation copy. So just download that ISO straight up, and have that ready in your in your lab, and we'll spin up server 2016 kind of vanilla, and we will make ourselves a domain controller. I think I'm going to give mine a Tommy Boy theme, since we sort of have that going. And then join a couple of machines to it, and then get started building a attacking box. But I think that'll easily eat up another part 2 or 3. But I know Dan and Paul, as we started this, we really wanted to have it be, knowledge foundation that gets built upon. So if people miss this part and come in at part 2 or 3, they don't go, oh shoot, how did you even get a NUC built? What are we talking about? They can go back and watch these in order and watch the knowledge accumulate. So. Yeah, so that's what we'll probably cover in the next couple parts. Just to, before we let you go, just a couple, I'm sorry, I just stuck this in here right before we started. I think Tuesday, March 12th is the tentative date that we'll do part 2 and 3. We want to commit to it, right? At least one more, at least one more of these.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, Tuesday, March 12th at 12. So we'll, send that over.
What time zone is that in?
That would be CST. So same, I think we'll just try to stick to being consistent if we can, Tuesdays at 12 in your respective time zone.
Got it.
Cool. And then just a couple things, additional resources. The 7-minute security user group is the next meeting is coming up February 25th. So if you head to this link, I just updated it. And if you're in the Minnesota area and you want to come in person, right down here, boom, 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 you can get your free ticket. Or if you'd like to just join like you're joining right now, you can see the web version. And the only thing you're missing out on is, I guess, the smell of other people and the no food for you, unfortunately. But and I know last time there's some audio issues. I'm going to work on getting better audio for the web folks. So that's on my to-do list. And then, oh, and then I did stick up this page as well. I'm just trying to make, trying to make stuff easier to find. Yeah. So I've got a gist going, and this is right off of 7ms.us as well, right down here, webinars. So here's our first one right now. I will then take this deck. I'll take the additional links, all the cool stuff, Dan and Paul, that you sent me, and you know, incorporate that here. And then I'll update the schedule that we've got part 2 coming. And that way, again, anybody who doesn't step in here till 5 webinars down the line can just come here and everything's here, rather than you hunting around. That's like the only part I hate about missing webinars from cool companies, is that you're like, oh yeah, I heard they did a thing like a year ago. And you're like, where is that? To the Googles I go, you know.
Hey, you know, also, how about creating in your Slack channel, how about putting one for webinars? So then after each webinar, you know, people can just go in there and ask the questions, and then, you know, we'll know where to look, right? So we can hit that on the 7MS Slack channel.
Good idea. Good idea. I like that. All right. I think that brings us to the conclusion. Let me maybe just check one more time for questions, if there are any. Let's see, there's chat stuff, but if there's any final questions, oh, let's see. I'm just gonna write smiley, because we talked about that one.
You know, we can't see your we can't see your chat box over there, by the way.
Can or can't?
Cannot. So you're safe
Oh.
there.
Oh, okay. So I can just say like, Paul is a terrible. Well, no, then you will see that.
You can't. I can hear you too.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Well, great. Oh, good. Okay. People are looking forward to part 2. I love that. I don't know about you, Paul and Dan, but like if like one person says they enjoyed it, I feel like it's, you know, I just feel like it's worth it, because we liked, just to give people listening a little bit of background, Paul and Dan and I have been doing this kind of impromptu geek out session. That's kind of a little bit of the inspiration for this series, is that we'll get together to maybe talk about topic 1, and we never get to it because it's like, oh, look at this, mouse jacking. Oh, look at this, a pen test tool. Oh, look at this. And we finally went, why don't we just get together and do webinars and just keep it casual, and again, keep it real meaty. No, you know, 45 minutes on why product X is the greatest thing in the world. None of that nonsense. Just get to it. So yeah. So I think that's it. Oh, sorry. One more thing here. I think I might have had one more final poll. If anybody's interested in one more poll. Oh, here we go. Let's just finish with this here. This is a would you rather poll. It's would you rather always have to wear a t-shirt that's one size too small or 2 sizes too big? Oh my gosh, look at that.
We can't see. You got to tell us.
Oh, okay. So even though I'm sharing my screen, you can't see the poll?
No, we can see a poll. It pops up. It just has a question, but we can't see the results or anything.
Oh, okay. And you said you can see my chat or cannot see my chat?
I cannot see your
Oh,
chat.
all right. So it shares, but it hides. All right. Well, I'm going to share it because 14 of the 18 people have answered. Here is the results. One person preferred a t-shirt one size too small, and it wasn't me. It wasn't me. All right, cool. So it looks like I think what we learned from this is that people enjoy this just get to it material, and that polls are kind of fun and they at least tolerate them. So if you got other ideas and things you want to share with Paul and Dan and I, come check us out on Slack, or let me get just the closing slide open again here. There we go. Let me close everything else because I'm not exactly sure if your screen is blocked. There we go. Reach out to us on Twitter or whatever means you like. And thanks a lot for joining us for, you know, what's probably your lunchtime. And anything else I forgot, Paul, Dan, anything else you want to plug or say as we head out?
Nope.
No, this was fun. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Everybody in the channel, I recognize maybe 2 of the attendees, you know, from your Slack channel, but yeah, it'll be kind of cool to get to know everybody over time. Yeah.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. All right, everybody. Well, have a great rest of your day. Give you 10 minutes of your day back. Appreciate you joining, and we'll do this again really, really soon.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you guys later.
All right. See you guys.